Alright, so for my Teach It video, I will be going over number 18 in chapter 9 of our textbook. And as you can see here, wrote out the problem. Okay, so in this case, we know that Carolyn wins a large prize if she wins 2 consecutive tennis games. So just something that's always helped me growing up was making illustrations. So not fancy by any means, but just drew a little tennis court here. So say we have Carolyn right here, very artsy, and she is to play alternately against Billy and Bobby. So Billy and Bobby, just draw 2 more stick figures right there. Okay, and it says assume she wins against Billy 50% of the time and against Bobby 80% of the time. So with that information, we can figure out the probability of her winning against Billy and Bobby. So first we'll start out with Billy. So it says 50% of the time. So that probability would be 50 over 100. And when we simplify that, that would equal 1/2. So 50-50, 1/2. So that is the probability of winning against Billy 50% of the time. And Bobby, so against Bobby 80% of the time. So probability 80 over 100. And when we simplify that, we get 4/5. So that's the information we are given. Okay, so after finding the probability of her winning against both Billy and Bobby, one might ask, okay, well, where do I go from here? So then we would look at what the question is asking. So essentially, we're trying to find out which alternative Carolyn should use. So it says she is to play alternately against Billy and Bobby, and here it shows us these orders. So what we're gonna do first is start out with the combination of playing Billy, Bobby, and then Billy. So here we have Billy, Bobby, and then playing against Billy. And it says if she wins 2 tennis games in a row out of 3 games. From that, I just collected, okay, well, in this order, she would win against Billy, win against Bobby, and then would lose against Billy in the 3rd game. So setting up an equation for this, we have P, probability, then in quotation marks, winning two games against just make it simple. BI for Billy, Bobby. Okay, moving forward, we are going to be looking at the 3 different possible combinations for this first step, as we'll put it. So beforehand, probability, that's what we're looking for. So we'll start out. So we have the probability of first winning against Billy. And we would multiply that against the probability of losing, can't spell, of losing against Bobby. All right, from there, we would multiply that by the probability of losing against Billy in that order. All right, so you can see I'm kind of going off the page. So after that, our next combination in this order, so we would add the probability winning against Billy times the probability of losing against Bobby. And again, there's probably an easier way of writing all this out, but for me, I don't know. I just like having all of those thoughts so I can kind of put them all together. So for me, that's just how it works. But I mean, obviously there's a faster way of doing that. So after that, we're going to multiply that by the probability of winning against Billy. So win against Billy. And then finally, we're going to add that to the probability of losing against Billy times probability of winning against Bobby times the probability of winning against Billy. So that's just kind of my thought process of how I did it. Obviously, easier way of writing it out, but just to show how I came up with that, essentially. Finally, after setting up that long equation, we can plug our numbers that we found earlier into the equation and solve. So we know this is the probability of winning against Billy, and this is the probability of winning against Bobby. So if I were to plug that in here, so it says the probability of winning against Billy. So we know that is 1/2. So equals 1/2 times the probability of losing against Bobby. So we're going to multiply that by 4/5. As you can see, I'm just going to follow along what I have here. So losing against Billy. So we're going to take 1 minus 1/2 in this case. We have plus winning against Billy. So add 1/2 again. So you can see that's where I got the 1/2. And then we will take 1 minus 4/5 probability winning against Bobby. And we're just going to continue with that down the line, as you can see here. So we have 1/2 probability of winning against Billy plus 1 minus 1/2 times 4/5 times 1/2. So this is what I've come up with, as stated before, for our equation. And after solving that, if I'm doing the math correctly, I believe it would equal 4 plus 1 plus 4. Obviously done this ahead in my calculator just to save time. And all over 20. We add that up, 9/20. So that's for our first step in the problem. Now we'll move on to the next.